So a warm welcome to Philosophy Live. My name is Armelle Young. I am a student and tutor of the School of Philosophy and Economic Science. And I would like to begin with a simple summary. What would you do if you became the president of the country? Would you move into the presidential palace? Would you get yourself an armored car, BMW, Cadillac, Jaguar? Maybe employ a few bodyguards? Another question. Have you heard of José Mujica? He was a president of Uruguay and he died last May. Well, he did none of those things. So this is the car he drove. He was president from 2010 to 2015, but he might just have been the most unpresidential president that the world has seen. So here is a picture of him, José Mujica, also named El Pepe, and died last May, nearly 90. He was a former guerrilla who had become one of the most listened to, respected, and popular leaders in Latin America. The reforms he helped implement as president marked Uruguay's entry into the 21st century. He gained international admiration for his progressive policies, his frank philosophical speeches, his integrity, and also his austere lifestyle. So a little about his background. He was born in 1935 as the only child in a farming family, just 8 when his father died. He spent part of his youth cycling and growing flowers with his mother on a small plot of land, selling them in the capital's markets. But he continued his studies through to the baccalaureate and beyond in a public school situated behind the University of the Republic. And there he mixed with Uruguay's young intelligentsia of the 1950s. So just to set the scene of how Uruguay fared around that time. So Uruguay, a small South American country, so this is where it stands now. If you look it up on Google, just on the right, just at the level of Argentina and Chile. Earlier in the 1900s, Uruguay had a very enviable social model, but unfortunately from the 1950s onwards, it fell into economic stagnation, inflation, and unemployment. The youth of the country felt that it had no future, riddled with corruption, poverty, inequality. Mujica and his comrade concluded that the country was heading towards dictatorship. So they organized themselves to resist totalitarianism and to fight injustice. And in 1963, he helped found one of Latin America's most famous guerrilla groups, the Tupamaros, and he became one of its main leaders. Thanks to their creativity, the Tupamaros became a model for armed groups worldwide. As you might expect, they kidnapped, they robbed banks, Mujica got shot, arrested, escaped multiple times. But by the late 1972, the guerrilla movement was crushed. Mujica and other leaders were imprisoned, and this was for nearly 13 years, much of it in total isolation and torture, often in underground pits during Uruguay's military dictatorship. So 13 years. Not the usual preparation for becoming a head of state. But of course, history moves on. In March 1985, they were released under a general amnesty following Uruguay's return to democracy. And this is where a new phase of Mujica's life begins. In 1989, he and the Tupamaros founded a new left-wing movement which was accepted and incorporated within the main governing coalition. Then Mujica was elected deputy in 1995. He became agricultural minister in 2005, senator in 2006, and president in 2010 for 5 years. And he achieved a lot. Under the coalition and his presidency, agricultural exports boosted the economy. Massive investment in renewables led to 98% clean energy, clean electricity. Poverty was halved. Extreme poverty dropped to 1%. Health reforms brought fairer access, particularly to the poor. During his presidency, Uruguay legalized abortion, same-sex marriage, cannabis. Criminal procedure laws were modernized, media monopolies were curbed, so a lot. In 2015, Mujica stepped down as president since Uruguay's constitution did not allow consecutive terms, but he remained a senator until 2020. And then he retired from politics, occasionally giving interviews and talks, often reflecting on life, politics, and human values. So that was his political journey. A rebel having become president. Now, his early imprisonment had profoundly shaped his evolution. He later said he would not be what he became had he not lived those 10-something years in deep solitude. But why did we say that he might just have been the most unpresidential president the world has seen? Well, when Mujica was elected president, this is what the press headline wrote. So this is what they said. The world's poorest president, the barefoot socialist, the man who lives on a flower farm. Mujica lived modestly. Rather than in the presidential palace, he lived in his wife's farmhouse, where he kept his Volkswagen Beetle, driving it from the farm to the presidential palace. His wife was Lucia Topolansky, herself a former guerrilla fighter. She also became a senator. Mujica looked after his flower garden, cared for his three-legged dog, Manuela. He received world leaders in plastic chairs. Here he is receiving the King Juan Carlos of Spain in his garden. So the King Juan Carlos there in the middle, and we can see Mujica's wife there on the left. He became world famous for his unpretentious lifestyle. He rejected the label of poverty. He says this: I am not poor. I simply don't submit to the need to waste time earning money. I keep the freedom to be with others. He lived, as he put it, like most people of my country live. Throughout his presidency, he donated 90% of his salary to charities. He also says this: poor is not the one who has little, but the one who needs infinitely more. His refusal of luxury was not a gesture. It was a deliberate choice of life. No suits, no elegant speeches, no entourage. He saw politics as a service, not as a career. He had no Twitter, no Facebook account, not even a smartphone. But his interviews and videos reached millions. Two of his speeches spread out worldwide when he delivered them at the United Nations in 2012 and 2013. United Nations assemblies are rooms usually filled with power suits, polished speeches. In contrast, his talks were part ecological warnings, part philosophical reflections. Here he is at one of these meetings at the United Nations. In 2012, he heavily criticized consumerism, questioning whether modern economic growth actually leads to human happiness. He called for a new development model, arguing for sustainable, ethical ways of living. He called for real changes in how we live and relate to nature. He said, we're not just born to work and buy things. Time to enjoy life is the real wealth. In 2013, he passionately denounced social injustice and economic inequality in the world, the obscene concentration of wealth. He highlighted contradictions like global hunger alongside military budgets and food waste. Politics, he says, should serve the weakest. He urged leaders to have courage and prioritize the collective good over markets and elites. This is what he told the world. This is what he said. It seems that we've been born to consume, and the society we have built is geared towards consumption. But when we buy something, we're not paying with money, we're paying with the time of our lives. He passionately addressed young people, urging them to find purpose and not to sell their lives to consumerism. To young people, he said this: don't waste your life working just to earn money. If you do, you have spent your life, your time for nothing. Live with others. Live as you think, or you end up thinking as you live. His speeches spread out on social media and YouTube, gaining millions of views and making him a moral figurehead for alternative political thinking. They sparked debates across academic, political, grassroots circles. His policies in Uruguay reflected this ethos, focusing on poverty reduction, inclusion, and social justice. He often speaks about love as a political force, arguing that a healthy society must be built on empathy and mutual care rather than competition and greed. This may sound a little utopic, but to a remarkable extent, José Mujica was successful in implementing several of his core ideas in his country. He did make Uruguay a more just, free, and human society. His presidency shows that a leader with a strong moral compass and no personal ambition can make meaningful change even without revolutionary power. He did not claim moral superiority. Mujica was very open about his flaws, his past mistakes, and he resists being idealized. He believes politics should be grounded in ethics, not ideology, and he repeatedly warns against the corrupting nature of power. He downplayed power, wanting to leave behind a generation of young activists with fresh energy. He says, what good is an old tree if it does not let light through for new seeds to grow? So in 2020, Mujica resigned from the Senate, left public life, and made space for the next generation. And he returned growing flowers with his wife. And this reminded me of Voltaire, the 17th century French philosopher, who famously concluded his word Candide with these words. This is what Voltaire said. Il faut cultiver notre jardin. We must cultivate our garden. Voltaire's main character, Candide, after a life of war, travel, and pain, turns to his own small plot of land and realizes that tending it is enough. So Mujica too returned to his garden. In our current world, this may feel a little revolutionary, but simplicity as a way of life, even for the president of the country. And Mujica once said this: if I had many things, I'd have to care for them. True freedom is having less, not more. That might not be a very fashionable message nowadays. It might be a wise one, perhaps. So thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed this talk, please like it and share it. And do follow us on Facebook and YouTube. Do subscribe to our YouTube channel. Philosophy Live is here every Friday morning at the same time. So we look forward to seeing you again. Have a good weekend.